What if I told you a company can make billions of dollars every single month, even if millions of its users don't watch anything at all? Sounds impossible, right? But that is exactly what Netflix has mastered. Think about your own behavior for a second. How many times have you opened Netflix, scrolled endlessly, added shows to your list, and then closed the app without watching anything? Yet at the end of the month, your subscription still renews automatically, no questions asked. No refunds. No negotiation. Now imagine that happening not just with you, but with hundreds of millions of people across the world. That is not just a streaming service. That is a powerful money-making system. But here is where it gets even more interesting. Netflix did not start like this. It was not always the global giant we see today. In fact, it began as a simple DVD rental service where people ordered movies online and received physical discs at their homes. It was competing with traditional rental stores, and at that time, nobody could have predicted what it would become. Then something bold happened. Instead of protecting its original business, Netflix decided to destroy it. They shifted from DVDs to streaming, then from streaming other people's content to producing their own, and now, they are not just a platform. They are one of the biggest content creators in the world. But here is the real question. How does Netflix keep making money while spending billions of dollars every year on shows and movies? Why do they keep investing so heavily in content instead of cutting costs? And most importantly, what makes their business model so powerful that even when competition increases, they still dominate the industry? Because this is not just about entertainment. This is about understanding how modern businesses are built to generate consistent, predictable income at a massive scale. In this video, we are going to break down the business model of Netflix in the simplest way possible. Not just what you see on your screen, but the strategy working behind it, and once you understand it, you will never look at your subscription the same way again. Most people believe they understand how Netflix makes money. The logic seems simple. You pay a monthly subscription, and in return, you get access to movies and shows. The better the content, the more people subscribe. More subscribers mean more money. End of story. But this is where that misunderstanding begins. Because if Netflix were just a content platform, it would not be nearly as powerful as it is today. The real problem is that people think content is the product they believe. Netflix succeeds because it creates hit shows, but in reality, content is not the product. Content is the tool. The actual product Netflix sells is something much deeper. It sells continuous engagement. When you subscribe to Netflix, you are not paying for a single movie or even a specific show. You are paying for ongoing access to entertainment. You are buying the feeling that there is always something to watch. And that changes the entire business model. Unlike traditional businesses, where revenue depends on how much a customer uses the product, Netflix earns money whether you watch every day or not at all. That means their goal is not just to attract users, their real goal is to prevent users from leaving. This is called retention, and it is the core of Netflix's strategy. Every decision they make is centered around one question. How do we keep the subscriber paying next month? This is why Netflix constantly releases new content. It is not just about quality, it is about consistency. If there is always something new, you always have a reason to stay. Another common misunderstanding is that Netflix competes only with other streaming platforms. People often compare it to services like Disney Plus or Amazon Prime Video, but that is a very limited view. In reality, Netflix competes with anything that takes your time and attention. Social media, gaming, YouTube, even spending time with friends or sleeping. Because time is the real currency in this business. If users stop spending time on Netflix, they begin to question their subscription. And once that happens, cancellation becomes very likely. So the real challenge for Netflix is not just creating content, it is capturing attention and maintaining it over long periods. That is much harder than it sounds, because attention is limited. Competition is everywhere, and user preferences are constantly changing. Understanding this problem is the key to understanding why Netflix operates the way it does. Now let's break down how Netflix actually works as a business in the simplest way possible. At its core, Netflix runs on a subscription-based model. This means users pay a fixed monthly fee to access its platform. Whether they watch one show or 100, the price stays the same. This creates something extremely powerful for Netflix. Predictable revenue. Every month, millions of users around the world pay. This allows Netflix to estimate its income with a high level of certainty. And when a company knows how much money is coming in, it can plan aggressively for the future. But here is where the model becomes truly interesting. Netflix takes a large portion of that predictable revenue and reinvests it into content. Not small amounts. Billions of dollars every single year. Why would a company spend so much instead of maximizing short-term profit? Because content is the engine that drives the entire system. Think of it like a loop. More content attracts more users. More users generate more subscription revenue. More revenue allows Netflix to invest in even more content. And that brings in even more users. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle that keeps growing over time. But content alone is not enough. This is where data becomes a key advantage. Netflix collects massive amounts of data about user behavior. What you watch, how long you watch, what you skip, when you stop, and even what thumbnails you click on. This data is then used to personalize your experience. That is why your homepage looks different from someone else. Single quotes is Netflix is constantly trying to show you something you are likely to watch, because the faster you find something you enjoy, the longer you stay on the platform, and the longer you stay, the less likely you are to cancel your subscription. Another major shift in Netflix's strategy was moving into original content. Instead of relying only on licensed movies and shows, Netflix began producing its own. This gave them control. They no longer had to depend on external studios that could pull their content at any time. More importantly, they created exclusivity. If a show is only available on Netflix, users must stay subscribed to watch it. Finally, Netflix operates on a global scale. It creates and distributes content across different countries and languages. This allows it to tap into multiple markets and expand its user base beyond a single region. So when you combine subscriptions, heavy content investment, data-driven personalization, and global reach, you get a business model designed for long-term dominance. Let's look at an example of how Netflix uses its business model to dominate globally. One of the best examples is the massive success of the show Squid Game. When Netflix first invested in Squid Game, it was not expected to become a global phenomenon. It was a South Korean series with a unique concept, a relatively unknown cast, and no guarantee of international success. But Netflix saw something valuable. Because of its global platform, Netflix could release the show in multiple countries at the same time without worrying about distribution barriers. No need for theaters. No need for regional TV deals. No delays. As soon as the show was released, it was available to millions of users worldwide. Now, here is where the business model becomes powerful. Netflix did not rely on selling tickets or ads to make money from Squid Game. Instead, the success of the show impacted two key areas: subscriber growth and retention. New viewers joined Netflix just to watch the show. At the same time, existing users stayed subscribed longer because they wanted to finish the series and explore similar content. This is exactly how Netflix makes money. Not directly from the show itself, but from the impact the show has on subscriptions. And the result? Squid Game became one of the most watched shows in Netflix history, reaching massive global popularity within a very short time. But that is not the only example. Another major success story is Stranger Things. This show plays a different, but equally important role in Netflix's strategy. Instead of just attracting new users, Stranger Things helps retain existing ones. When a show has multiple seasons, it creates anticipation. Viewers stay subscribed while waiting for the next season to be released. This reduces churn, which is the rate at which users cancel their subscriptions, and lower churn means more stable revenue. These shows also create cultural impact. They spark conversations on social media, generate fan communities, and build brand identity for Netflix. So the value of content goes far beyond entertainment. It becomes a tool for growth, retention, and brand strength. This is the key difference between Netflix and traditional media. Companies, they do not think in terms of selling shows. They think in terms of how each piece of content contributes to the overall ecosystem. And when that ecosystem works together, it creates a business model that is extremely difficult to compete with. So what can you actually learn from the business model of Netflix? Because this is not just about a streaming platform. This is about how modern businesses are built to dominate in the long run. The first and most important lesson is this: do not just focus on selling one-time products. Focus on building systems that generate recurring income. Netflix does not depend on a single movie or show to make money. Instead, they built a subscription system that generates revenue every month. This is called recurring revenue, and it is one of the most powerful business models in the world because it creates stability. The second lesson is retention. Most businesses focus heavily on acquiring new customers, but Netflix focuses just as much on keeping existing ones. Why? Because it is much easier and cheaper to keep a customer than to acquire a new one every time a user cancels a subscription. Netflix loses money immediately, so they design their entire platform to keep users engaged. From personalized recommendations to constant new releases, everything is designed to keep you watching. The third lesson is the power of data. Netflix does not guess what users want, they analyze it. They track behavior and use that information to improve recommendations and content decisions. This reduces risk. Instead of guessing which show will succeed, they rely on data-driven insights. This makes their decisions smarter and more efficient. The fourth lesson is control and ownership. By creating original content, Netflix reduces its dependency on external studios. This gives them more control over their platform and protects them from losing content to competitors. It also allows them to build exclusive value that users cannot find anywhere else. The fifth lesson is long-term thinking. Netflix did not become successful overnight. They invested heavily in content, technology, and global expansion for years before becoming profitable at scale. Many of these decisions would have looked risky in the short term, but over time, they created a massive competitive advantage. So the bigger lesson is this: if you want to build something meaningful, think beyond short-term gains, focus on systems, focus on retention, focus on scalability, and most importantly, focus on building something that continues to generate value over time, because that is exactly how companies like Netflix are built. Now that you understand the business model of Netflix, you are already thinking differently than most people. Because most people only see what is on the surface. They see shows, subscriptions, and entertainment, but you now understand the system behind it. You understand how Netflix uses subscriptions, data, content, and global scale to build one of the most powerful business models in the world. And this is just the beginning. Because once you start seeing how companies actually make money, you will never look at businesses the same way again. You will start noticing patterns, you will start understanding strategy, and you will start thinking like an investor. If you want to, keep learning how money really works, how businesses grow, and how wealth is actually built in the real world, then this is exactly where you should be. Make sure to subscribe to the Geeky Investor. Because in the next video, we are going to break down another powerful business model that most people completely misunderstand. And trust me, once you see it, you will never think about money the same way again.